Hello, welcome my latest video, that is test driven development TDD in using ASP.NET Core 6. So here we learn about the test driven development, and test driven development criteria is first write a test, and then it's red, then it's failed, then you write some code only for pass the test, then need to refactor it. And this cycle we developed a system in our application. But when you are developing any application in test driven development, first write a paperwork about what you want to do. If your logic or business criteria is not clear, then it's very difficult for you to manage or writing code in TDD pattern. Okay, so we start our coding in our previous application. So if you are not familiar with that how to write test in C# or ASP.NET Core, you must see my previous video unit testing ASP.NET Core with using the xUnit. That help you to understand how to write test code. Okay, after completing this session, then you seeing this series, that will helpful for you to understand properly how to write the test driven development. So first of all, I create a new branch for my test driven development. Git checkout -v, the branch name is test driven development. I created, and I told you before write some test TDD, you need to paperwork what you want to do in your code. Okay, so requirement analysis is the main factor before writing any TDD code. So inside our test code, uh, I create a new file, that is my requirement analysis analytics file. I created a readme file for your understanding. File q requirement.md. So I cross others file. Okay, so it's a university management system for our understanding. So we start working for course related work. Course insert in database, or that means the post method for insert or create a new course. That work we start for in DDD. So we write test code or test driven development for new course entry. Okay, so it's our requirement. So first, one number work, need a need to create request and response object to insert data. So first we need to in your every API, when you want to insert something, then post method need a request object, and after the response you want to get some response. Okay, after the execution in business logic layer. So we write what we need. We need a request data. The object pattern is almost, we have a name, suppose bachelor, sorry, the name is object oriented programming, its name, and the course code is suppose CS002, and every course has a credit, suppose the credit is 3.0. So this our request object, and we need a response object, response data or response object, data object. So if the data is inserted successfully in database, then we need to output some information, that is the response object and also the id suppose 1. Okay, so it's our first requirement to create a request object and create a response object for inserting new data in course. Okay, so now in second requirement number 2, we need validation for our request data. So this area we created some validation work. So what type of validation we need in our system? We write some condition. First of all, first one is name must not empty. First of all, request not null. If you send anyone is a null object request, then we provide response is exception or other type of response. Okay, request not null. Second criteria, we need uh, uh, course course name not empty, course name not empty, and course and name must be between 3 to 3 to suppose 50 character. Okay, so we need another validation for course code not empty, and code must be between suppose 3 to 20 character. Okay, and another validation need course credit must be greater than or course code suppose between 1 to 5, 1 to 5. Okay, so that is the double type data, that is 1.0 to 5.0. Okay, and this our second requirement done, we created. And third requirement is for its a development requirement, we create validation using Fluent validator library. Okay, so we create another rules validation using the Fluent validator library. Okay, so we created 3 criteria already. So right, okay, so this video is recording successfully. So now in fourth number condition, before inserting data in database, check name or code already present in already exist in system. Okay, so if any code or name matches existing codes related data, then the insert is not successfully, then it create some exception. Okay, so this another criteria. And now we create another logic for 5 number. So if code or name not exist in system, then codes data insert in database. Okay, so this our business logic we need to implement in our code, but this code we implementing using the test driven development way. Okay, so now we start our code. So when you are using any test driven development, then you need two library, one is xUnit and you also need another library, some mocking. And if you don't know about mocking, you can study some tutorial. You can get free tutorial in YouTube or other resource. Okay, so here in this project I want to add another class library, that is mock is the library, and it's added in our testing and bll.testing. Okay, okay. So okay, okay. So without touching this, we create another folder that very helpful for uh, ours to understand it. So that cause I remove the mock and create. Okay, so I create another test project, new project, yeah, xUnit also, uh, university app dot bll dot tdd testing. Okay, so giving the name tdd testing. Okay, so I create another project here, and we copy the requirement file from here to there. That goes. Okay, so now and unit test 1, I remove the testing file. Okay, so here I need to add another project, that is mock, and need to add tdd testing. Okay, the added. And another work, when you are using the tdd pattern, you need to change the main namespace. The if you are both namespace that you are testing in the business logic layer, so I write the root namespace is university app.bll. That help us to we move code from here to there, not needed to refactor the namespace. Okay, so we almost done. So we are starting our writing test code. So we name our test class and we add class course insert test. Okay, so I write this name. First I write a fact and create a method, public async task should. And good practice, when you are writing any test method name starting with should. Okay, should return course with request response value. So this is our first requirement. The first requirement is request this data and we get response this format. Okay, is our first requirement. So in DDD pattern, we know DDD pattern is first need some test code and watch it fail. Okay, so we are creating some test code. Var request equal to new course insert request view model. So this class not created yet, so we click the button and create type. Okay, so class is created and we need to create some property, that is name equal object oriented programming, and write code equal cs001 and provide credit equal 2.0. Okay, So these are getting error, so we need to create property, yeah, the create property. Okay, so these are request now, and we need to result. Okay, so our result is course insert response view model, response equal. So before write this code, we need to create a service var course service equal to new course service. Okay, so we also not created this service, that cause I need to create a type, and this called service type. Okay, so again now uh, this two part is our arrange part, and this part from act part. So this area we create response, then called the code service, and need to provide some await code service dot create course async, yes, it's async, and also provide the data in request data. Okay, so this model also need to create. I also create the class, and this class is also similar this class, and all extra property is prop integer course id. Okay, so this method also not created, that cause I created the method and not implemented yet. Okay, so almost done. So now we create some arrange assert dot not null response first test, then I test assert dot equal. So what is the equal definition? If I write this equal, that is expected. Okay, so expected is request dot name must be matched with response dot name, and also write some another test code that is match with code, and credit match with credit. Okay, so we arrange something and we create some class, so we need to run the test. You see our test is failed, it showing is not implemented exception. Okay, so our test is failed, so that is we completed the first part, write a test, watch it fail. So we need to do some job to make our test red to green. Okay, and it's a continuous process. Okay, so we need some code to uh, pass our test. That means we create a return new course response view model, that is code equal to request dot code, name equal to request dot name, and credit equal to request dot credit, and that is course id, suppose I'm providing 1. Okay, so I write some code, then if I run the test again, so now you see our test is passed, so we complete the red code to green scenario. Now we start our code to refactoring. Okay, so first you need to some write code that is failed, then you need to write some code to change your red code to green, then that means you pass the test, then you need to start your refactoring your code. Okay, so we start our refactoring. So we created some folder here, that is view model directory, that is view model. Okay, need to create another folder, that is directory service. Okay, I created two folder, that is the I need to some change, that is not to service, must be the plural, the edit rename services. Okay, so we're done. So we need to move our code service, move to this area and click to here and move to service file folder. Okay, so need to refactor bll.service, and now need to move this code, first of all this file, then move to again another file. So course insert request view model and course insert response view model, cut to move to this folder. Okay, so right in folder, if I create refactor this and adjust namespace, and if I click OK, then you see the namespace is now perfect. Okay, so now we move our test code and need to first clean solution and again build our solution, and build is getting some time. Okay, okay, so build is done. Now for testing purpose I run the test, and you see my test is successfully run, and now I completed the cycle. I write a test code, test is failed, then uh, write some code to pass the test, then I improved and refactoring our code, so we completed the cycle. Okay, so now we need to some changes, that is we need to move our code service to service folder. Okay, and need to view model, so I move the view model folder to bll folder. Okay, so I move in bll, and you see services view model, what's the error, I need to reference the project, and you see not any single line of code you need to change, because the main reason is I change our main root namespace is the same as our business logic namespace. Okay, in your test driven development, if you do this job, then its testing is very easy, writing test is very easy for you. So now if I run the test code again, so done, not any issue is present in our code, and our first requirement request and response, and also it test is already completed. Okay, so now we need to create some Fluent validator for testing purpose. Okay, so now I go to our test code, and when you are writing the Fluent validator, then you need to NuGet package to add Fluent validator, ASP.NET Core, and I also add this file inside our BLL, and also BLL testing. Okay, BLL testing insert successfully. Okay, so our required software is installed successfully. So now we are starting our second test code. Okay, so what is our second first requirement? Request not null. Okay, so if the request, if someone is providing any data without proper object, then it create throw exception. Okay, so first of all we need to test the request is null or not. So we create another method, public async task should throw exception if request is null. Okay, so now we moving same way. First we write some code that makes our test fail. Okay, so and need also, and if I, okay, so I write fact. Okay, so var exception equal to await assert dot throw async argument null exception, and this area needs some action, that is, so first we need to forget something, that is need to create the object of the service. Okay, so I create service and equal, I create code service dot create code async, and I'll input the null. Okay, so if the exception is come and check, then check assert dot equal the request equal exception dot param name. Okay, exception dot param name. Okay, so what I write, if you send a request that is null, then it throw exception, and we test the exception is request, and exception param name is request. Okay, param name is request. Okay, so I write some test. If I run, you see the test is failed. uh, we want argument null exception, but system return null reference exception, so our test is failed. Now we need to test, write some code to pass our test. Okay, so inside our code service we created logic, if request equal null, then throw new ar argument null exception type of request. Okay, sorry, that is name of request. Okay, so now if I write the test again, and you see test is passed successfully. Okay, so here if any null data is present, then our system throw exception, is that is argument null exception. Okay, so what is the name of request, that we check the name of request, provide the this data. Okay, if you write the change this input, uh, if I change request to input, then you need to set this also input. Okay, input. So if I test this, then test is passed successful. Okay, so what is the param name is the parameter type input variable name. Okay, so this is now called the name of right. Control Z, so modify. Okay, so I think you understand it. Okay, so now our if now I run all the test. If you run the all test, then if I write the class test, and you see my both of the test scenario is passed successfully. Okay, so now we fulfill our first request not null. So second, third, fourth requirement is we need to fulfill using the Fluent validator. Okay, so if you go to the Fluent validator SPNet xUnit, you get their documentation, a fantastic way how to manage this. They are create a class for person validator, added some rules. Then in their test, they provide person name equal to null. Then they call the validation the test validator method. Okay, and should have validation error if this test is passed, if it's provide any error. If the system not provide any error, then test is passed, otherwise fail. Okay, so this way we can also write this. So in even we write our code in test driven development. So in request, inside the view model, so codes insert request view model. For the rules of Fluent validator, I copy this, we need, and paste this and refactor. Course inter request view model validator, we need provide our name, our class, and abstract validator is the Fluent validator property, and here provide the class name. Okay, so there I am not and need to create a constructor. Okay, so I not create any validation. Okay, so now I am coming to the test and created another test method. Okay, I write fact and write public async task should Fluent validator setup error. Okay, so I provide the name some spelling mistake, validator. Okay, so again var request equal to new course insert request view model. I create the object here, and now var validator equal to new this validator, that is course insert request validator, and also var result equal to validator dot test validator async, and need to some wait. Okay, so here you need to provide your request. Okay, so result dot should have validation error message for should have validation error for x dot name, because I need to validation error cause now my object is, I created the object but not assign any property. And when you are creating any object of a class, a default constructor is called and generated their default value. That means my name is empty, my code is empty, and my credit also 0.0 in default value. Okay, so it must have validation error message throw. Okay, so again I write code and I also validation message for credit. Okay, so first I run the test and you see expected a validation error, but they are not providing any validation error. So we need to refactor, or we need to write some code to pass our test. So we come to our request validator, and here we need to write some validation logic for Fluent validator, that is rule for x dot name. Okay, this dot not null. Okay, so I am writing some validation logic in our requirement and not empty, and also another logic is present there, character in course name 3 to 50 character. Okay, so not null, then minimum length 3 dot maximum length 50, requirement is 3 to 50 and another is 3 to 20. Okay, so I again copy this and now paste this 3 to 20. Okay, and also need a logic for rule for x dot credit, and that is a decimal value, that cause not null is supported, greater than or equal to 1, the logic is 1 to 5. Okay, and less than equal to 5. So I write all logic here. Now I run the test again, run the test, validation, expected validation property code. I think some error in our, yeah, you see, yeah, yeah, you now imagine if you are writing test code, then you easily catch where you writing some error code. Okay, so why testing is very needed. You are when application is production mode, you change something but you don't know the this changing impact any other anywhere. So if you write test code, then the system also told you, yeah, you are doing some error, so please solve this issue and rerun your application. Okay, so we easily find out. So we have some wrong, so that is code. Okay, now we test again. Now see, our test code is passed successfully. Okay, so you see every time we are working this way, first failed, then success, then we start refactoring. Now we need to some refactor our code, that is some custom message, this area uh, with message name must not empty, minimum length we can write also some logic, some message with message name must be at least 3 character, and also here some message name not greater than 50 character. Okay, so here this line we write, and this rules also same, mostly same. I copy this here and write code must not empty, and also copy this code must not must be at least 3 character, and copy this code 20 character. Okay, so now same write some message with message credit must be greater than or equal 1, and also I need to copy this and paste this. Credit must be less than or equal 5. Okay, so we refactored our code. Now we run all the tests to see everything is working perfect or not. Yeah, now we see our testing working very perfectly in our system. So now we completed our this logic and we fulfill our second validation also done. Okay, and also we create Fluent validator and library, and we also test our Fluent validator library also working perfectly. So now we are going to insert our code. Firstly, we completed basic insert. Then we write our code for testing. Okay. So now we insert our in database, and uh, in our application only business logic we write in BLL layer, but database related all work we done in DLL. Why we are not every code in BLL layer? Because a single repository principle, that is you cannot write everything there. So that cause we need DLL in our application to work in database related work. So now I'm going to our test code and create another test method for this. Write fact public async async task should save codes in database. Now here we need to first of all create our code service, but inside the code service we need to inject our repository. So first of all we need to create some repository. So here I created a department repository. Okay, so I create another class I course repository, and we need to inherit from it from, so that is interface in interface, but we not implemented any this time. When you are writing test code you don't need to write implementation. Okay, so I need to create a model for course class course and prop integer id, prop string name, prop string code, prop double credit. So now in our course I need to add it there. Okay, so we complete create our repository. So now cross this and also cross this and also cross this. So we need to inject the department repository in our course service. When you are writing test code and you need to inject some another class, then you need to use the mock. Okay, So we create a mock var course repository mock equal to new mock and write I course repository. Okay, so now in your course service you need to inject course repository mock dot object. Okay, so this service now uh, creating some error cause in course service need to create constructor. I created a constructor in course repository and also in the field level injector. So when I created any constructor, so our all other test in fail, because in your every test case you need to create the service for you for using it. Okay, so when in every method we are writing the same code, so we need to we know another principle, that is dry, don't repeat yourself. So we are moving our code in another place, that is constructor, and inside the constructor I created a mock for course repository mock, and if I write this way then you get some benefit underscore, then it create field also. Okay, and also I copy this code and paste this and now change it to underscore, and inside there I create course repository mock dot object and also this create field. Okay, so and everywhere where we use code service we remove it and using this way, and anywhere, yeah, getting also there, and also refactor using underscore, and here also, so we no need to write this code again. Okay, so before doing anything I first need to run all test if everything is perfect or not, so not any issue in our code. Okay, so fantastic. So I need to insert our code in our DB. So I create a var request equal to new course insert request view model and get some data from somewhere. I copy this and paste this. Okay, so now var response equal wait underscore course service dot create course async and provide the request object. Okay, now I check something. We know underscore course service when you are inserting any data in database, so course repository mock, then uh, mock stat mock, we need to verify x dot create async it dot is any course is any course is any course verify any course is called anytime. Okay, so I write comma times dot once. Okay, when you are inserting any data in database, you need to you need to call the create async method. So there I am now checking it if the create async method is called inside the uh, create course async service method. Okay, so I need also test another method. Inside when we are working on the department insert, you see some code here. In when you are inserting any department, then you see we call create async repository and also the unit of work for committing this job. So in our test service we need to inject another mock for unit of work mock equal to new mock I unit of work. Okay, so I need to create field and also need to inject inside our uh, underscore unit of work mock dot object, also need to inject this service. So add parameter, and in our code service you see another parameter is come and field. Okay, so in our test method I also check codes repository underscore unit of work mock dot verify x dot commit times dot once. Okay, so we called test is passed if the create async method call and verify method and the unit of work commit method is called. Okay, so we also test some another logic assert dot not null response and also assert dot equal request dot code equal to response dot code response and need to name and also this must be credit. Okay, so if I run the test is failed, that is mock exception, but we write the create async and verify must be called one time, but it's called in zero time because in our service we not implemented create async anymore. Okay, so we need to we first get the test failed. Now we write some code to pass our test. Okay, so first of all in code service, now if request has no any issue, then we create var insert data by insert course equal new course and also provide code equal request dot code name request dot name, then credit request dot credit. Okay, so we created object, then we course repository dot create async, then provide the insert course and need to await. Okay, and now if I write unit of work dot commit. Okay, so then we create our data, then we response our data, and course id must be the insert course dot id. Okay, so now I write some code. Now if I run test again, you see our test is passed because I need to provide you some debugging issue, because inside the test method this method is this code is run one time and this code also run one time. Okay, so that I check using the mock library. They has a method for verify. Here you can test how much time this method is called there. So I check if only one time is called, that means the code is passed successfully. Okay, so our ld, so spelling mistake. Okay, so we also completed our another requirement, that is the this requirement. Okay, we before writing some code, uh, we are checking some anything, we first write our insert data in database code. Okay, so now one item is remaining, that is before inserting we must need to check the code name or code already exist in our system. Okay, so I'm going to the test code and write another test and also some refactor our code formatting. Okay, done. I write fact and create another method, public async, async task should not save course if code or name already in REA, already in system. Okay, so test method name is large, that is helpful for reading the name of the method, then you understand what work this method is done doing there. Okay, so I created another request here and also called a uh, course data, but suppose uh, course course data equal to new course. Okay, and also provide code equal CS001, but need change name equal to uh, Java how to program. Okay, and credit equal to 3 credit. Okay, so I created a course data. So first of all I need to some setup course repository mock dot setup x dot, we know we are checking something for that cause we created another method find uh, single async it dot is any, then you need to write expression function and now write course and comma bool. Okay, and exception not expression, expression expression SPRESSION. Okay, expression sync. Okay, expression, then dot return async, return async, suppose response data, course data. That means uh, any type of it's dot is any, that means if any type of course related data, then the find single async return this object. Okay, so now we need to provide exception that is await assert dot throw async, that is exception x dot exception underscore code service dot create codes async in the request data. Okay, and we expected assert dot if any data is present there, then we expected these two method called zero times never times never. If we set up, then find single async method return a single object, and we know when you are writing code, if any data found in our system, then we are not inserting data. Okay, so we check the exception, uh, we check the mock. First of all, we check the mock, and then the exception is arise, then we assert dot equal our expected is data already in our system, and the exception dot message equal to similar. Okay, so I need to run the test, and you see the test is failed. Okay, so no exception was thrown. The system was not throwing any exception. That cause the error, the test is not passed properly. Okay, so before we write our object, we first here need to, now we fail the test, now we are coming to write some code to pass our test. Okay, var existing data equal to await underscore repository dot find single async x dot code equal request dot code or x dot name equal request dot name. Okay, so now we writing check some code. Existing data not in equal null, with then we without return inserting something, we throw new exception data already in our database. Okay, so now I test code again. Oh yeah, now the system, so I write there, and inside our database write system. If I go to the test code, run test, you see every test code is test pass complete. If we need to understand what is doing there, I created a debug point, and you see the mock. Okay, so we mocking this line created a object which is similar this data. Okay, so I created debug point there, and now debug. It's a mocking is a fantastic library, you need to study it. First of all, you see the existing data is not empty, it's a course credit 3 Java how to program, that is similar to the this data, because I said before, you must remember, you need to set up any data before calling the method. Okay, so we set up this before calling this method. Okay, so we told the system, when where you find this line, you return this data. Okay, so that cause the two data is similar. Okay, so credit 3 says 0 and Java how to program, that is the similar to the return data. Okay, so now it get the data and throw the exception. Okay, if I remove this line, then what happened if I not test set up this? That time if you debug again and go to there, and now existing data is null because you are not mocking this. So inside any third party if you call any third party class or service, then mock is very fantastic framework to set up this type of service data. So that's the way we create some data for this, for our testing. So we set up every test, and now I run all the test, run all to check all our test is working perfectly or not. You see all my test is successfully working. So we, using the test driven development, we created our create course async method. So I think you enjoyed this course, and you see the how the pattern I am writing the test driven development code. So I am going to our terminal and check the git status and git add dot git commit hyphen m test driven development uh, development course insert work done. So I push this git push origin uh, test, what is the test driven development branch, that helpful for you to get the code from different branch. Okay, bye bye. I think you enjoyed this course and you learn how to write the test driven development code, and why I am writing mock, what is mock is needed, because I write a picture for there your understanding. So basically when you are creating any project and working any system, so then you are writing API, business logic and DLL. So you are dependent for database, third party API service, some caching service. So mock, if you are not using mock, then you need to set up everything, and your test is dependent all the third party system. The main benefit of using mock, without any implementing any service, you can easily created your code and test your code. Okay, so that's the main benefit is another team working on implementing this service. Without implementing, you can also test the code, and when they join the third party service and you run the test, you without any dependency, you understand your test your code is working perfectly or not. That is the huge advantage here for test driven development. Okay, so test driven development not wait for depend on any database or any third party or caching service. Okay, so bye bye. I think you enjoyed, and best of luck.